I've always thought sometimes, why have some of these best investors in the world never really paid attention to news? And oftentimes as well, the news presents it in a way that's, it's very serious. It's a one-time thing. It's going to impact you. And you think, well, why are these investors never really, for lack of better words, just cared, right? And I think there's a couple of reasons behind that, which is firstly, they can't control it, so they don't try and predict it because it's very hard to do. And it's not something that it's not what they're competent at. They're competent at finding great businesses at great valuations and executing on those opportunities, right? But there's other things behind that, and I think that there are some very real things in terms of manipulation occurring. Where there's Jim Cramer, for example, who hosts a show, for those of you who don't know, on this like stock investing network channel, and he actually himself used to run a fund. And there's this like leaked video of him basically talking about the business of hedge funds, which at the time in particular, a lot of was basically you would pay multiple outlets to basically dump this stock in terms of news. So like just completely flood the business with negative news by way of sponsoring, right? You'd go on yourself, talk it down a lot, and then actually what happens is a lot of people start to follow that sentiment. Like the herd will start to follow that sentiment, and actually that presents a great buying opportunity for them. Now, I'm not sure if this is prevalent nowadays, but you certainly get periods of time where there is some sort of, maybe not agenda being pushed, but everyone's following the same sort of mentality, which is, this is going to be the worst year there's going to be the worst year because of this, this, and this. And almost every single year, news articles are basically saying this is going to be the worst year. This is because of X factor, housing, economy, wages, etc. There's so many reasons, labor prices, commodity prices. There's so many things that can sort of be the reason. And now, whilst I'm not saying that there are never recessions, because there are typically every 7 to 10 years a recession of some sort, it is something to be aware of. That is this. I don't think it's even necessarily to be aware of. I just think it's something that I should be aware of when I'm investing in that one particular business. And what I mean by that is, say there was a recession tomorrow, would this business survive? Is it able to generate profits consistently? Does it have a clean balance sheet? Yes, it may not necessarily be recession defensive, where it thrives or it does very well still in a recession, but at least have a good balance sheet, good management, good operationally, it's efficient, so that at least comes out the other side at a pretty decent state, right? So I think that I would take a more individual, sort of granular approach on that particular business rather than worrying about everything. And a lot of times they're just fears, in my experience, just to sort of providing buying opportunity and liquidity for oftentimes bigger investors. So I think that's something worth taking into account, and that's why you see a lot of these great investors basically pay no mind to news. They always duck the question, what's going to happen to the economy? And quite frankly, to them, it's not very important. Like, you see Warren Buffett do this time and time again. You see Monish Pabrai, sort of, I call him his unofficial disciple, basically someone that's learned from his teachings. Warren Buffett, for those of you who don't know, is like considered the world's greatest investor. Monish Pabrai is like a self-taught disciple of his, who's done very well as well, managing his own fund of over $1 billion. Always has had above average returns in the markets in general. And yet you never see them sort of talking about what the news outlets are doing, and in terms of the news from the news outlets, or what's happening to the economy and so forth. It's always very focused on that one particular business, and make sure that they get the risk down with that one particular business. Is this business recession proof? If it's not, fine. Is it in a good cash position? Has it got too much debt? Is its business reliant on certain constraints? And so forth. Are they paying a reasonable valuation, not inflated, where they have to pray for significant growth to continue, or something of that nature, right? So I think that there are things that you can do to mitigate it on a personal, individual level, and that's sort of been the best approach for me to take as well.